I'm now logged in as Steve. Steve's role is a performer. He's on one of the service teams, and so once Carol submitted her requisition, it's up to somebody like Steve to take action on it. So because Steve has a slightly different role, he may have a different view of the catalog, and you can see from the left-hand column that he has some different data in there as well. So Steve, because of his role, has access to a number of different modules, such as the Service Manager. Going into the Service Manager, Steve can see the amount of work that's available for his team or for himself personally. If we go ahead and search for the requisition that Carol just requested, we can pull up that requisition with the different types of tasks that need to be accomplished. For instance, we can see that the first task due is more information needed. So in this example, we can easily just open up that task, and Steve will be presented with a form that's very similar to the form that Carol saw. This is Steve as a performer's view of that form, and he has a couple different fields that were hidden to Carol. For instance, if more information is required, Steve can say yes, and he can write a question here for Carol, and it would bounce back to her so she could supply some additional information. Or Steve can say, nope, I understand what's going on, I have everything I need, and just update that task. Now that task's been completed, Steve can go back to the home page, search for that requisition again, and we'll see that the next item for him to accomplish would be reviews and approvals, which could be accomplished by Steve or another person on Steve's team. I've now moved to the Service Designer module, where somebody like Steve or one of his colleagues can easily create new services or modify one of the hundreds of data center services that newScale ships out of the box. Right now, we're looking at the new standard virtual server service. This is the one that Carol just ordered and Steve just performed some tasks against. This also gives us a view into the plan. Now the plan can be a tabular view here, looking at the different steps in a table, and it can also be a graphical view. Now it contains many of the tasks that Steve saw earlier when he was logged in as a service manager. Here we can see that newScale not only offers hundreds of services, but also provides the most options, either in a table format or a graphical format, by which to modify or create new services for the data center. I'm now logged in as Trina. If you recall, Carol identified Trina as a secondary admin for the server she just ordered. Trina has a slightly different view of the Service Catalog homepage based on her role and her needs. If we move to the Service Items tab, which is enabled as part of our Lifecycle Center product, you can see that Trina has a quick and easy view of all the virtual machines that are being managed under her site administration team, including the server that was just delivered to Carol. Here, Trina can see some details about this server, including the number of CPUs that were ordered, and if she thinks that it needs a few more CPUs, then she can look here at a list of related services that are filtered specifically for virtual machines. Trina can scroll down, find the service she's looking for, such as the Modify CPU Allocation service, and go ahead and order 2 additional CPUs. I'm now logged in as Martin, who, as the head of server infrastructure and Steve's boss, has a series of dashboards available to him to check on his team's performance. With these dashboards, Martin can easily see servers distributed by business unit, some on-time completion results, as well as some financial alignment and business alignment. Martin also has a more detailed view that shows him the next level of detail around the types of servers that are provisioned, how his team is doing in terms of promoting standard server builds over custom server builds, and even some servers that are past their decommissioning date. This report is critical, especially when trying to control VM sprawl concerned with temporary virtual machines. This report can be viewed by business unit, server owner, server type, and can also be shown in a tabular format that shows all of these attributes as well as business reason, application hosted, and even contact information for the primary owner. While reporting gives Martin a window into the current state of his services, Relationship Manager allows Martin to plan for future services. Using Relationship Manager, Martin can talk with Carol and Trina's boss to understand his future needs, business requirements, and even get into a little bit of capacity planning. Here, Martin can talk about the different tiers of services that are available, compare them in various levels of detail, and find one that's right for Trina and Carol's organization. Focusing on Tier 2, Virtual Platform, he can go and start to initiate a quote, which takes him to a screen where he can perform some what-if scenarios around future demand for the upcoming fiscal year. Any changes on this screen will be identified in the top left around the total fiscal year estimate, as well as this area here, which will give a more granular view of the estimate by period. We can start changing these values by selecting different support levels, or selecting the number of hosting packages, in this case SQL Server packages, per period, or easily copying them out to account for the entire fiscal year. If we need to make more granular changes, we can also take a look at this view, where we could account for, an example, a project that hits in the fourth quarter. Once agreed upon, the items in this agreement will help Martin and Steve plan for their future capacity in terms of infrastructure and other resources, and the underlying component services enable the Service Catalog request portal that Trina and Carol see when they log in to request new servers.